iOS 26 is expected to have one of the biggest redesigns we've ever seen on the iPhone, and there are several last-minute leaks and rumors that we've heard about that you need to know before WWDC 2025 in just a few hours. By the way, if you look down below and you are not subscribed to the channel, you are going to miss out on all of the new iOS 26 features because I'm going to be going super in-depth here on the channel, going through every single change that's in iOS 26 on your iPhone. So make sure you are subscribed down below for all that coverage. Okay, so before I spoil WWDC 2025 for you, I just want to say that every rumor I will be talking about comes from a credible source. I'm not going to include any of the rumors that come from unreliable sources. So these are going to be Mark Gurman, MacRumors, 95Mac, the typical, trustworthy sources for these leaks. So let's get to it. And of course, make sure you do tune in to the live stream tomorrow where I will be streaming my reaction to all these iOS 26 features. So let's talk about it. And we have to start with the redesign because this is undoubtedly going to be the biggest change across the board for all of these software updates. So this year, again, we are expecting it to be iOS 26, not iOS 19. Apple is going to adopt the year as the version number instead. So we're going to have macOS 26, watchOS 26, iOS 26. They're all going to be 26, and they're all also going to have a similar design language. And we're now hearing from Mark Gurman. He says this: the main interface element will be digital glass. There will be more use of light and transparency throughout the operating systems. Tool and tab bars will look different, and there will be redesigned app icons and other buttons. There's also a strong focus on the use of pop-out menus, meaning users can click on a button to get a quick list of additional options. So I think I'm most intrigued for the pop-out menus feature. So I'm not really sure how that's going to look, but that can be pretty interesting. And of course, we are hearing again that we're not going to see circular icons. I don't think that's ever going to come to iOS. It just does not match the aesthetic of it. That's just for visionOS. But we might see a slight tweak to the design, but they're not going to be full-on circles like we see on visionOS. Now, as far as widgets go on iOS and iPadOS 26, we're hearing that these will get customizable views on the home screen for weather data, stock tickers, and appointments, and they've also been redesigned to match the new interface, but that's about it. We're not going to see anything groundbreaking with widgets with iOS 26. However, we are going to see some significant enhancements, a significant revamp to three main applications that you probably use every single day, and that's going to be phone, Safari, and camera. So the phone application is going to get a new view that combines the favorites, recent, and voicemails into a single scrolling window. Safari is going to get a significantly updated look, highlighted by a more transparent and glassy address bar, and the camera app is going to be revamped with a focus on simplicity. And keep in mind, all of these applications are also going to get the new UI. So like the buttons at the bottom, the toolbar, they're going to have the updated look to look similar to like visionOS, for example, where we have that glass-like look. So even if there's not a major change in certain applications, at least the UI is still going to look new, which is going to be pretty exciting to see. But those are not the only applications getting some significant new features, because the Messages app is also going to get some long-awaited features, including the ability to create polls, potentially with Apple Intelligence suggesting certain poll categories. You'll also be able to set a background image that will sync between devices. So if you change the background, it will show up for the other person as well, and vice versa. If they change it, you will see that background change as well, kind of like what you see in Snapchat and Instagram when you're chatting on there. So it's going to be more like WhatsApp across the board, and there will also be live translation built into the Messages app as well. Now, here is one that I did not see coming. So in iOS 26 and iPadOS 26, we're apparently going to be seeing the preview application from macOS. So this is the first time this is going to be coming to anything besides the Mac, and this is going to be basically a new tool for annotating PDFs and basically just PDF management in general, instead of being in the Notes application or the Files application. So I'll be interested to see how that works and why it's so much better. Now, here's one that's very interesting as well. So Apple is going to be launching a new dedicated gaming application to replace Game Center while also adding additional functionality. So it looks like it's going to put game downloads and access to Apple's arcade platform in one place, looking like a games-centric version of the App Store. So Game Center right now is kind of a mess. It's kind of lost in settings. Nobody really ever uses Game Center. So I guess this is Apple's way to kind of get people more into gaming on mobile, especially with the Switch 2 just recently releasing. So we'll see how that goes. The music application is expected to get the new UI redesign, and also it's going to get a great new feature where we can have animated album art on the lock screen. And it's also going to take up the full screen, not just a little square like we have now on iOS 18. Also, the Notes application will finally add Markdown support, so you will be able to export a note with Markdown. CarPlay is also going to get an update, so it's going to match the design that we see on iOS and iPadOS, which is great because CarPlay has looked outdated for a little while now, in my opinion. And we've also heard about some Apple Intelligence features that we're expected to see at WWDC 2025, although it's going to be a very, very minor year for Apple Intelligence. Apple is holding on to all the big Apple Intelligence features for iOS 27 next year. But this year, we are still hearing about a few features to expect, including battery intelligence, which is going to show the amount of time it takes to charge up your phone on the lock screen like you get with Android, and it's going to use Apple Intelligence to determine that. But it seems like the big focus this year with Apple Intelligence is for two things. Number one is for translation, and number two is for developers. So number one, with translation, we talked earlier about how we're going to have live translation in messages. We're also apparently going to have that with phone calls as well, which can be pretty neat, where it's going to translate in real time what the other person is saying if they are speaking a different language that you want to translate. And for developers, we're going to see a big update here because you're finally going to be able to implement Apple's models, their LLM models, into your applications. So they're going to open up Apple Intelligence to be implemented into applications. Also, Genmoji will be updated with iOS 26. So if you're somebody who creates a lot of emojis using Genmoji like I do, that will be updated with this software. And of course, we will see other small enhancements across the board, like the Shortcuts application, for example, will get Apple Intelligence support for creating shortcuts, and you will see other minor features sprinkled throughout iOS 26 as well, according to the rumors. Also with iOS 26, you're going to have a new connectivity feature where you can sync captive Wi-Fi login details across devices. So if you go to a hotel, you know how you have the captive login, and you have to put in your room number and things like that, that is going to be shared across all your Apple devices as long as you are signed into the same Apple ID. We might also be seeing Stage Manager support for the iPhone, so this can be similar to what we see with Dex on Samsung phones. Now, as far as iPadOS 26 goes, it's going to be relatively similar to iOS 26 as it is every year. There's really not a huge distinction between iOS and iPadOS in terms of features, but we are expecting to have some exclusive features to iPadOS, including improved productivity, along with new multitasking features and expanded window management options. So basically, Apple is going to try to make the iPad feel more like a Mac. It's going to not be macOS-like, but it's going to have a lot of similar features to the Mac, including a Mac-like menu bar when you're connected to a Magic Keyboard, along with some new Apple Pencil features. We also heard about some new AirPods features coming to iOS 26. So we're hearing about live translation with AirPods in your ears. Also, new head gesture. So, you know, you have the head gesture now to shake yes to answer a call or no to dismiss the call or notification. We're going to have new head gestures with iOS 26. And then here's an interesting one. So the AirPods are allegedly going to get a feature called Auto Pause for sleep. So it's going to pause the audio playing in your AirPods when it detects that you've fallen asleep. But of course, the AirPods don't have sleep tracking, so it might rely on Apple Watch data for that, unless, of course, Apple is planning to launch new AirPods with sleep tracking capabilities. We're also expecting to see a camera trigger with the AirPods. So you could just squeeze a stem to snap a picture from your phone. So if you want to use it as like a remote or something like that, I'm not really sure the use case, but you can, squeeze on one of your AirPods to snap a photo. There's going to be a microphone enhancement. So the AirPods could actually get a studio quality microphone mode, similar to the audio mix feature that we see on the iPhone 16 Pros. Now, as far as macOS 26 goes, we do have the leaked name of macOS. You know how Apple always names macOS after a popular destination in or around California. We're hearing that macOS 26 will be called Tahoe. So macOS Tahoe, of course, named after the Great Lake Tahoe. But as far as rumored features for macOS 26, we're not really hearing a lot. Of course, we are going to see the redesign that's going to be spread across the board for all the operating systems. So we will see that new glass-like design on the Mac, which will be awesome. We will also see some of the accessibility features like the vehicle motion cues for motion sickness that will be added to the Mac. And of course, some of the other features like the captive Wi-Fi sync, things like that are spread across iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and so on. Now, as far as tvOS and the HomePod, we're actually hearing that Apple might be rebranding the HomePod software to homeOS because it's been recently trademarked. So right now it's kind of confusing because it's just HomePod version 18.5, HomePod version 26, but now apparently with the upcoming HomePad as well, Apple is going to rebrand the software as homeOS, which we've been hearing about for a while, but they might actually make it official at WWDC this year. So that is everything to expect at WWDC 2025 with iOS 26, macOS 26, watchOS 26, and all of the other operating systems with their update. So the main takeaway here should be that the redesign is going to be the focal point, the focus of everything at this event. The redesign is going to be the big new feature. We're not going to have a ton of new features, like actual features and changes. We're going to see a lot of visual changes, which I'm okay with. A lot of people don't like when we get both a redesign and a lot of changes at the same time. It's not really the time to make a lot of changes internally, like in settings and things like that, when you have a full redesign going on. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, these are all just leaks and rumors. There will be several additional features with iOS 26. And of course, I will cover all of those changes here on the channel. So make sure you are subscribed down below. Anyways, guys, I will see you tomorrow in the WWDC live stream here on my channel. And I will also see you in my initial iOS 26 beta 1 video where I show off a lot of new features and changes. And I'll have a lot of other videos throughout this week as well. So stay tuned. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.